faithfully conveying value and interpreting great books worldwide. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today we're exploring the book Modernity and Self-Identity, subtitled The Self and Society in Late Modernity. The author is renowned contemporary sociologist Anthony Giddens. He served as director of the London School of Economics and was a key advisor to former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. Terms like late modernity and self-identity might sound abstract, but actually affect every one of us. Late modernity refers to the post-1960s world. Self-identity examines the challenges we face in this era and how to live with clarity. We often hear our era is defined by anxiety, like worrying if bubble tea has too many calories. Being single brings joy but might mean loneliness in old age. Working hard earns money but risks exhaustion and health issues. So perhaps easing up is better. Restless anxiety, decision fatigue is the modern plague. So why is this happening? Giddens argues late modern society brings with uncertainty, or rather pervasive risks. Macroscopically, atmospheric and ocean pollution. Global warming hangs like a sword overhead. We never know when disaster might strike. In daily life, trust between people is fragile, uncertain whether today's friend becomes tomorrow's foe, given modern life's complex interests and role-playing. Thus, uncertainty seems to create numerous problems, but paradoxically, human progress historically thrived on uncertainty. Giddens notes society's transition from traditional to modern required liberation from certainty. Many modern elements connect to this shift. First, science springs from doubt, which dismantles certainty. Without Copernicus questioning geocentrism, heliocentrism wouldn't exist. Later scientists didn't blindly assume the sun was the universe's center. And through continuous doubt, observation, and correction, our cosmic understanding expands. Thus, it's no exaggeration to say doubt birthed modern knowledge. Furthermore, human liberation means freeing oneself from fixed social relationships. So-called fixed social relationships are primarily based on blood ties. In traditional societies, whether Eastern or Western, people's lives were largely bound by blood relations. For example, we often talk about sons inheriting their father's professions and arranged marriages based on parental decisions. Social rules also confined people to specific positions, like forbidding farmers from moving freely or trading land, dividing people into classes such as scholars, farmers, artisans, and merchants. Although blood ties remain important today, people no longer blindly believe elders are always right or want to return to inherited professions and arranged marriages. Beyond blood, race is also a fixed social relationship because the race you're born into, like the family you're born into, couldn't be changed in traditional society. That's how people were categorized and judged based on race. The most typical example is anti-Semitism. Someone might be discriminated against or even physically eliminated simply for being Jewish. Although racial discrimination still exists today, it's not the mainstream of society. In short, human liberation pursues equality, no longer judging people by unchangeable attributes like gender, family, or race, but by their character, merits, and achievements. As Martin Luther King Jr., the American civil rights leader, said in I Have a Dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. So-called modern society means liberating people from fixed social relationships. Thus, modern people have greater autonomy and choice. In the journey from traditional to modern human history, breaking determinacy is a monumental feat. Giddens has a famous saying, traditional lifestyles are inherited, but today people's lives are self-created. So what drives people to break certainty? To put it simply, in traditional society, many things were immutable and always been this way. For example, God created man, and paternal blood ties were supreme. But modern society tends to ask, Just because it's always been this way, is it right? This tendency to question everything, just because it's always been this way, is it right? This characteristic defines modernity. As traditional beliefs shake, new possibilities emerge. New options become available for people to choose. Thus emerges human agency, what Giddens calls reflexivity. What exactly is it? Simply put, every new decision people make pushes the world toward greater uncertainty. Take antibiotics as an example. We know medicine constantly seeks new ways to conquer diseases. After penicillin became medically available in the 1940s, many once deadly diseases like tuberculosis and syphilis saw drastically reduced lethality. But with penicillin's widespread use, bacterial resistance steadily strengthened. Thus, humanity had to develop new antibiotics against drug-resistant bacteria. With superbugs emerging, we risk facing treatment shortages again. This cause-effect cycle embodies reflexivity. Had we relied on the body's natural defenses instead of antibiotics, these later complications might have been avoided. But when you make new choices, you enter dynamic territory. New problems inevitably arise in this process. Our solutions then spawn further issues, an ongoing chain reaction. Since fully entering modern society, the ripple effects of human choices have spread globally. The world's natural attributes diminish while artificial ones intensify. Today, human activity profoundly reshapes nature. Greenhouses provide year-round watermelon, and chickens reach maturity from hatching in just 45 days. Cosmetic industries now enable radical appearance alterations. Humans have even cloned sheep and monkeys using genetic technology. Moreover, societal functioning no longer depends on imperial whims, but on external systems, political, legal, economic, and social security institutions. These very systems are products of our cognition. Today, we're enveloped by our own creations. Before the 20th century, we primarily reaped reflexivity's benefits. People were driven, conquering skies and seas, building planes, exploring the moon, fervently reshaping nature and themselves. Looking back, it was a time of naive optimism, but through prolonged development into Giddens' late modernity, we increasingly confront dilemmas born of transforming nature and human liberation. These dilemmas arise partly because objective knowledge is unstable. Modern people increasingly realize knowledge and truth aren't fixed. What was accepted as true yesterday may well be disproven today, and yesterday's proclaimed truths often face reversals today. For example, deeper exploration into GMO food safety reveals no definitive answers while raising more questions. Many women relate when researching skincare efficacy only to find baffling contradictions. Browsing Zihu then Taobao won't necessarily clarify things. Some medications follow this pattern. Only after side effects manifest are they widely discontinued. Another instability stems from increasingly turbulent social dynamics. For instance, as marriage shifted from parental arrangements to free choice, we gained more options. Society's view of breakups evolved from negative to positive, recognizing that leaving unhealthy relationships benefits well-being. Thus, modern relationships are freer yet more unstable. People always have alternatives. Maintaining long-term bonds now requires greater effort, a modern predicament. From traditional to modern and now late modernity, humanity both thrives and suffers from uncertainty. So why in late modernity do we increasingly confront uncertainty's downsides? Partly due to time-space compression and partly issues from scientism. First, time-space compression means advanced media and transport create an interconnected world, diminishing regional differences, forming a global village. Thus, locally contained incidents can become global uncertainties. Take SARS transmission. Southern People Weekly reported an infected Guangzhou doctor attending a Hong Kong wedding at Kowloon Hotel before diagnosis. Guests from the US, Canada, and Singapore shared his floor. The doctor was unaware of his infection and interacted normally with others. After returning to their countries, they developed symptoms one after another. What was once local rapidly became global. Time-space compression also manifests in humanity's prolonged transformation of nature, which isn't uniform. For instance, post-industrialization pollution in many regions far exceeds agricultural impacts. The more modern we become, the greater the ecological destruction and clearer the negative effects. Moreover, we often say, knowledge knows no borders. Many technologies are indeed applied transnationally. Once these technologies malfunction, disasters likewise cross borders. Thus, without exaggeration, people in the global village truly share breath and fate. A butterfly flapping wings across oceans may stir tempests here. Thus, uncertainty, that is, risk, naturally intensifies. The second cause of high risk in late modernity stems from scientism. Modern society holds a paradox. The scientific spirit opposes superstition, yet people often idolize science itself, leading to scientism. Gibbons notes we must recognize modern knowledge systems are built on skepticism. Her foundation isn't solid earth, but quicksand. Yet people mistakenly equate science with certainty and universal solutions. When these remedies fail, panic ensues. For example, Keynesianism, state economic intervention, helped the U.S. survive the Great Depression, but couldn't solve all problems. In the 1970s, U.S. economic stagnation worsened, and no one could guarantee whether this stagnation resulted from prior Keynesian policies. Past methods now fail, exposing a fatal flaw. Knowledge and truth aren't stable. Because of this instability, we're inevitably exposed to risk. Individually, we might buy insurance to mitigate risk. But our entire society, the whole world, can't purchase such coverage, nor can scientism provide it. This stems from scientism. The second issue, overemphasizing expertise and objectivity while neglecting emotion and ethics. Giddens points out that modern society's trust crisis stems partly from people losing their capacity for trust, heightening anxiety. He believes trust is a creative human ability, the capacity to try and experience things with childlike innocence. Ultimately, this innocence represents a virtuous, moral capability. But modern societies' excessive faith in scientism, expertise, and objectivity has made people emotionally cold, eroding their capacity for love and trust. For instance, depression research certainly aids treatment, yet society may delegate sufferers entirely to professional systems and psychologists, forgetting that familial love and care are equally crucial. Similarly, merely enhancing nanny professionalism falls short in elder care and childcare. It's inherently emotional work. Thus, we must create emotional space, beyond expertise and pay, emphasizing love and respect. Building trust minimizes transaction costs, as both economics and sociology research confirm. Essentially, it reduces risk. In well-functioning communities of acquaintances, contracts exist and commerce thrives precisely because of trust. Century-old establishments embody this credibility, but modern society relies entirely on contracts. While clarifying rights and responsibilities, it also creates impersonal relationships devoid of trust, and societal functioning can't perpetually depend on contracts. Thus, without trust, risk and anxiety permeate everywhere. To summarize, clear embracing uncertainty once helped humanity transition from traditional to modern society. Through embracing uncertainty, we gained modern science and liberation from fixed social bonds. But in late modernity, people increasingly grapple with uncertainty, both objectively and subjectively. Objectively, modern people increasingly realize knowledge and truth aren't stable. Subjectively, modern relationships are freer yet require constant effort to maintain. People often feel overwhelmed. Scientism acted like medicine liberating us from tradition, yet it's imperfect and its side effects fully manifest under time-space compression. Simply put, modern people who gained liberation by abandoning stability now find themselves entangled in uncertainty and insecurity during late modernity. Individuals in modern society face unprecedented pressure. Giddens turns this the burden of the self in his book, Take Parenting. Modern people don't rely on tradition, so grandparents' role diminishes. They provide childcare, but not child-rearing advice. Scientific parenting is trendy, yet it can't definitively say whether breastfeeding or formula is better. Controversies abound over ideal weaning time and optimal age for learning foreign languages. Numerous parenting books exist, yet all advise adapt to your specific situation. Thus, while young parents trust science, they often find it ambiguous. Worse, seeking scientific justification for every action consumes enormous time before starting. This is the burden of the self. This is the reality facing everyone in late modernity. An era of unprecedented choices and informational noise, tradition discarded, science not omnipotent, individuals find no foolproof guide for action. So, how should we live under these circumstances? Many hope to find constant principles amid uncertainty. Gibbons offers 4 suggestions. First, acknowledge life is full of choices. Don't avoid them. Though choice overload troubles us, it's better than no choice. Don't abandon freedom, fearing risks. Free love beats arranged marriage. Remarrying beats lifelong widowhood. These rights weren't divinely granted, but won through historical struggles. Therefore, respect every right to choose. Second, make choices proactively. Your choices affect not just yourself, but world development. Giddens notes we often think choices only shape personal fate, but collective choices steer our era's currents. For example, the feminist movement's famous 1970s slogan, "The personal is political." Back then, women had already gained equal rights in macro political issues like voting rights and employment. But women found that gender inequality still stubbornly exists in the private sphere. For instance, when a girl is born, her parents' expectations differ. They're more inclined to raise her as a homemaker. Choosing between being a homemaker or a career woman seems personal. This tendency is actually closely tied to broader societal gender inequality. Only when more women choose to become professionals, even career powerhouses, will society realize that women's life paths are incredibly diverse. Third, we must critically recognize the value of science and not idolize it. For example, a key trait of idolizing science is believing we can arbitrarily reshape the world for human benefit. But is that really true? Ironically, it's scientists themselves who first question this. CCTV once reported that experts from the Wuhan Institute of Virology, Chinese Academy of Sciences, spent 13 years tracing viruses and finally pinpointed SARS' origin. Bad experts note that in recent years, infectious diseases found worldwide have increased, with more frequent outbreaks. These emerging diseases share one thing: they're linked to wildlife. That these viruses aren't new. Some have existed for tens of thousands of years. Moreover, they aren't targeting humans. It's human hunting and consumption of wildlife constantly invading their habitats. Eventually, they reach humans. To avoid this, we must return nature to nature. The last suggestion: don't undervalue ethics and emotions. Ethics and emotions have always been vital in human life. When we try to explain or solve everything with science, remember humans are emotional beings needing love, trust, and respect. All right, with the 4 suggestions covered, let's return to the book itself, Modernity and Self-Identity. Published in 1991, it became a global sensation, making reflexivity a buzzword and earning Giddens worldwide fame. This book's importance lies in probing fundamental questions like, in modern society, how do I exist? How do I know myself? What should I do? And what standards guide my actions? Giddens prompts us, who are you? It's defined by the story within your heart. And that is, your autobiography contains the reasons and outcomes of all your actions, with every step being your choice. People today have far more choices than in the past. So, choosing any possibility might lead you in a direction and generate more uncertainty. Perhaps letting go of the obsession with certainty and bravely facing the open possibilities after choosing is a good mindset. All right, modernity and self identity. That concludes our introduction to this book. Listening notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.